Okay, so thinking about breastfeeding, what I want you first to think about is things that we see in everyday normal. Things like dogs feeding puppies and cats feeding kittens, and this is what we accept as everyday normal. What we don't see is a cow feeding a foal or a horse feeding a calf. So in thinking that way, what we need to put into our minds is that really we ought to be thinking about human milk for human babies. Your milk is made specifically for your baby. It is tailor-made. So no other animal can feed your baby like you can. So why is it good for our babies? Things like, yes, it'll help protect our babies from getting infections such as chest infections or tummy infections or ear infections. And it'll help protect our babies against things like illnesses such as childhood leukemias. Who would have thought that it would have protected our babies against some cancers? And also it's healthier in the way that babies don't become overweight. So babies are able to manage their own intake. So they're managing their own, their own wellness, their own well-being. The other thing is that the biggest one that I would have thought that would encourage anybody to breastfeed would be if you were to breastfeed your baby, you can reduce the incidence of your baby dying from sudden infant death by 50%. This is a huge thing to think about. So moving on to mums. Why is it good for our mums? And it says here what it's telling you. It's things like, yes, it can reduce your risk against certain cancers such as ovarian cancer and breast cancer, but it's also about your wellness, your feeling of wellness, because we can reduce our feeling depressed and postnatally depressed after birth should we want to feed our babies this way. And why is it good for our dads? We kind of tend to forget about them in the background a little bit sometimes, but feeding is good for our dads, such as, yeah, it's healthier for our babies, and it's less hassle for dads. So it's not them that's feeding the baby, it's mum that's feeding the baby. So that means that, yeah, you could probably get away with having a good night's sleep if your baby lets you. It's on demand, so you don't need to take anything with you as you're running around other than your partner, you know, so mum's going with you with baby so she can feed round and about. And yes, it can save you a little bit of money as well in the long run. And at the end of the day, you'll get a happy, healthy mum. So continuing to feed our babies is really important. And we'd like to think that we can encourage you to breastfeed your baby for around about 6 months, which is when we start to introduce solid foods. And we continue feeding your baby until you are happy to stop at whenever stage that may be, sometime in the future. So things like you might think about, well, what if I become ill or what if baby becomes ill? What do we do then? The idea is it's really important to carry on breastfeeding your baby because you're going to provide your baby with some protection against an illness that they may have picked up or one that you've had and you may pass on to your baby as well.